I find it the most interesting is actually networking in other industries, being curious about other things, to go a bit outside, not to close yourself only in this field, because the world is going so fast. And even if it's not games, but just creative industries, or maybe it's other industries, especially where as an entrepreneur, then you need so many connections because business is being done by people. Always be open to a half an hour discussion about something.
Welcome to the Rise and Play podcast. I am Sophie Vaux, your host and leadership coach. In the show, my wonderful co-host and I sit down with influential and diverse leaders from the gaming industry to hear about their leadership journey. Not the well-polished stories, but the real stories. The up and down, the breakthrough, and the failures. Or should we rather say learnings? Each episode will transport you into a magical space of vulnerability with our guest. And together, you'll be reminded that no matter how hard it is, you are not alone in this journey and find the courage to keep going. Come and join the ride. Let's begin. Former product leader who worked 16 years in the gaming industry, I know how difficult it is to get reliable and usable player insights. The logistics of scheduling, recruiting the right players, collecting and reviewing feedback, it is all time away from game development. But you know how fundamental it is to test assumptions with your core audience and iterate at a lower cost before marketing an unproven game. I am proud to announce Playtest Cloud as our key partner, as I have believed since day one in the quality of their service and their mission to democratize player research. Playtest Cloud can take the hassle out of organizing game research yourself and delivers results within 48 hours, allowing you to implement changes in time for your release. Having been a long-time user of the platform, it is the industry standard used by top AAA and mobile studios, and now they also support indie developers with special pricing. Working for a year on the wrong game is an expensive mistake, and you can de-risk it now by investing in your player research. Check out the show notes for a free trial and learn more about Playtest Cloud. So hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Rise and Play. And today I'm delighted to have with me Odile Limpach. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm not used to say it in the English way where usually I would say in the French Limpach. I don't know if it's... But anyway, Odile, I've connected with a few years ago in the context of SpielFrabrique. So Odile also had a long experience in the gaming industry, and before was the managing director at the German entertainment software studio Blue Byte, which was acquired, if I'm correct, by Ubisoft, and also managing director at Ubisoft GmbH, so in Germany. And now it's been 10 years, right? SpielFrabrique?
Yes, approximately, yes.
Yeah. So after her career in games in more executive leadership roles, she co-founded with her partner Thierry the video game catalyst SpielFrabrique 360 degrees. I'll also share a few words what is SpielFrabrique because maybe that's relevant for our listeners here who are these days building studios, are fundraising, struggling to fundraise, or even launch their games. And that's why also I've connected with SpielFrabrique in the context of my work in leadership and coaching. So it's an international accelerator dedicated to the video games industry. And through a network of partners, runs various programs to support studios and startups in the development and expansion. So it has expertise in mentoring game studios, fostering international co-production models, and providing guidance on financing and market access. And I can highly vouch for that because I've been also part of a program of SpielFrabrique called EVA, European Video Game Accelerator, gathering once per year a group of studios who are facing the same challenges with several mentors, experts of industry who come together to support those studios to reach the next level of their phase and of increasing the odds of success. But we'll get into that anyway today with your episode with Odile. And worth mentioning, because as I was reading your bio, Odile, I was realized, wow, she has an amazing background. So Odile also has a background in business from France. So coming from France, we are two French today, and completed a MBA in the US. And also you've been acted as an advisor for the French Ministry for International Business Development, which I didn't know, but it is great, and has been honored as a Chevalier de l'Ordre National du Mérite. Which is funny to read that, in the same sentence, should we say chevalier? but yeah, it's still a recognition in France. So when I'm reading that, I also then get to recognize the work you've been doing and the impact, and that has been also recognized on a national level in France. So congrats for that.
Thank you.
So I'm done with the intro, but I want to give also you the space here to come. Welcome, Odile. How are you feeling today?
Yes, hello, Sophie. Thank you for having me today. Happy that we finally find the time to have this conversation. I'm happy to be here. I think what you're doing with this podcast and also about leadership and working a lot with women is really good for the gaming industry. So very delighted to be able to participate and to give my 2 cents to all the subject that you are dealing with every day. So yes, let's go and see what kind of discussion we can have today.
Yes. I'll start with the genesis of SpielFrabrique because, these days, 2024, 2025, there's been a big wave of layoff, studios still closing, people trying to find their new paid chapter, some leaving forced or voluntarily, and asking themselves the question, should I start do my own thing? So it's a bigger majority. I can see like from 10 years ago where it was more normal to be employed and it was abnormal to start your own company or something something else because it was easier. And that is going to be a very prominent question for a lot of people working who have been employed. So I wonder for you, when probably you were maybe not forced out or, there was not like that crisis in the job market, you still decided to start your own initiative and company business while you were probably in a very good position at Ubisoft at the time. So I wonder what has happened in that phase of your life or career that you decided, I'm going all in, I'm starting a business.
So when I took the decision, very honestly, it was a hard decision. I didn't realize all the implication of having your own company. And luckily, because probably I wouldn't have done it then. But when I now looking back, it's easier, after 10 years of being independent, looking back and looking at the situation, it was pretty easy to tell what happened. On one side, I was employed in a very big company. When I started at Ubisoft, and I stayed a very long time at Ubisoft, and when I started at Ubisoft, we were worldwide 500 employees. And I was helping them to build companies. So I built the whole distribution company in the country, in Germany and Switzerland and Austria. And then after doing this, I wanted to have a new challenge. They offered me to build the whole production. So we bought Blue Byte. It was only 30 persons. And when I left Blue Byte, it was 400 employees. Oh. So I've been building companies for them the whole time. And the company was changing a lot because when I left, there was already, I think, more than 10,000 employees. So it was a totally different way of working. Getting a bit older, I realized that I liked to work on projects. I liked to be independent. And I didn't like being employed by a very big company where you have a lot of politics going on, a lot of reporting going on, and you're not in the project anymore. I didn't enjoy that much having that many employees. Yes, it looks like you're very powerful, but I missed the personal contact to the people. And I found it always pretty strange that people would know me, but I wouldn't know them. Because when you have 400 people, it's almost impossible to know, and with a lot of fluctuation, to know everybody and to know exactly what this person is doing. So I was in a very comfortable situation to say, well, I'm not sure I like that. And then I also looking at what I was doing, I said, well, I've been building companies for somebody else, and they were very happy with my job. So maybe I can do that, and I can build my own company this time, and not for somebody else. It came also at the phase of around the 40s. I had already 3 kids. I had done a lot. I was very lucky with Ubisoft to be able to make a very fast career, honestly, changing job every year and really going very fast with a lot of responsibility and a lot of people. And I was in a very comfortable situation of telling, okay, now I can choose what I want to do really, being the time of your life when you can better decide because you know yourself better. You know how life is with your kids, what you're doing. And also I was lucky enough to have a partner that was earning enough money that the family could sustain without my salary for, I didn't know how long, but I was not the family pillar at that time. So I knew, okay, I can go and try the adventure. And if it doesn't work out, I was pretty confident I probably would find another job then. But I wanted to try it out. The other one is that I am married to a serial entrepreneur. He has been working for a company only for 2 years at the very beginning, and then he started to build companies. So somehow, maybe I was a bit jealous that he would be able to do his stuff and me not. That might have played a role there. So I knew a bit also how it was. And I had an idea, actually. I was really also sure that at that time, when I left Ubisoft, I wanted to work to help also projects that were not in the gaming industry to have more relationship to games, speaking about gamification, about serious gaming. And I thought there is a need there. The game industry can do a lot of things and other industries don't know. That was one of my motivation. And the other one was also SpielFrabrique. Well, SpielFrabrique didn't exist at that time. I first left Ubisoft and then I met my co-founder, actually. So I started alone for a couple of months. And then I started to work on my company, on analyzing needs and so on. And then I pivoted a bit the idea of, I did a bit of consulting in serious games, but then I started to discover the indie world. And then I saw some opportunities, and this is how we started SpielFrabrique. Looking back, luckily, as I said, luckily I didn't know how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur by yourself. Yes, probably you're going to fail first and then pivot and then find some ideas. Sometimes it's good to be maybe a bit too optimistic. When I look at the evolution right now, as you were saying, I see also a lot of people thinking about building their own company. I think one of the points that really helped me a lot is I already was a long time in the gaming industry. I had a big network of people. So I wouldn't tell that all these people kept on supporting me, because today you're not more from Ubisoft, you're not more, you don't have the shine of a big company. So I would say some of the people, I realized that I couldn't rely on them. They were more interested in my power at Ubisoft than anything else. But a lot of them also was just interested about me and my personality and what I was about to say. And I was lucky to have support and people interested, listening to me at least first about what I was doing. And so I think when you are in the current situation, it's very dangerous to start be an entrepreneur just out of necessity. This is what I tell everybody that comes to me. And I try to be very honest also with these people and asking questions to make them realize, are you the personality of working alone, taking all this positive and all this negative news? How is your reaction to risk, to uncertainty? I think this is one question you need to ask yourself. The most important question, say, how do you behave in time of uncertainties? Because for me, the worst aspect of it is uncertainty. All the rest, I would say I love it, and I will never work for a big company again, except if I have to. But uncertainty is something you need to learn to cope with and to be able. And not everybody has this personality to do.
Thanks for sharing. And it's so a few things that I take away in the condition what you had at the moment. You could see that there was you had an ability to do things, so it takes also a certain level of confidence. Like, why not doing it, by myself? And I will say this for women who I've been working with in coaching, who are quite also on top of companies. They have done a lot. They have roles, and still a part of them don't believe that they would be enough by starting something. So this is maybe here a point of you don't know until you try, right? But it's scary. And also it's having a certain stability like you had financially. It's also another factor where you don't know how long it will take until you start to see what really works. So for the people who are asking themselves that question, maybe to do it now and test, experiment, and knowing that this is not the end game for them being employed or in their current role. And having also representation around you to show you like what you may want or what it could look like, right? One question I had in mind was exactly what made you believe that you could start a company where I believe at that time, still not a majority, but seeing women starting the company is the lack of them, right? So I was wondering if that also was something that even crossed your mind at the time.
Yes, I think this is where our cultural background plays a big role. I was the only woman in the game industry for a long time in Germany. I would pretend almost the only one. And I was the only one with 3 kids and working full time and having such a responsibility. And this comes all from my French cultural background, because when you are raised, I was raised and born in France. And in France, it's just normal that a woman works full time, that she takes responsibility. It's normal that a woman gets kids, lots of kids. And still, yes, I think this is the only country in Europe where you have a positive development right now. So all my generation, we all in France having 3 kids, it's just a normal. It's nothing special. And in Germany, everybody looks at you like, are you crazy? Or did something go wrong with you? Because you decide to have such a big family. So it was normal to have kids. It was normal to go back to work and to take some responsibility. On this side, I must say at that time, Ubisoft was also very much supportive of you being able to take 6 months of break as long as you were coming back and doing your job, and being also, I started very early to have flexible times to be able to pick up my kids from school and then go back home and then work, finish the work I didn't have time to do during the day in the evening, just because I needed to be there for something. And this is all very cultural. So, and this is the way I've been raised. My mother always worked. My sisters always worked. So I didn't even think about aspect of being a woman or not. For me, I had thought I need to try it. I know how a business works. So I tried and somehow I'll manage. And I think that's one of the main issue especially in Germany, is this cultural way of still seeing the role of a woman in the society. To my feeling, it doesn't evolve much. And that's why it's so difficult to find women that are willing to build a company.
And that's also important to talk to the ones who did, because I took the leap also a year and a half ago, and it's a leap of faith, but like you said, also not overthinking it. I have an environment of entrepreneurs, so it's just more normal. It doesn't matter the gender, but I could relate to the part of jealousy. My partner is an entrepreneur, and there was a moment I really hated him for traveling, being flexible, and so I was like trying to get more of him, and instead of thinking why not, I could also give that to me. And I realized only later that was where that jealousy or envy was coming from.
I might also turn in this point is looking back now at many years of being independent. I see young women saying also, I want to have my own company because it's more flexible. Yes, you decide the rules, but at the end, your customers also decide the rules. And my experience by now, comparing to being an employee or being independent, I have 100% flexibility. I do what I want, when I want, and the way I want to do it. But holidays, they really need to be very strong to really decide this is a real holiday. I'm not going to check my emails. And most of the time, I don't mind checking my emails and making sure that there is nothing happening that I would feel bad when I come back. So a lot of flexibility, but the company, it's a bit your additional baby and your additional kid that you still have and you still have to take care of. So I think it's also be very aware that, yes, flexibility is there, but it brings also a lot of duties when it's your own company.
Yeah, and I'll double down on that, where it's about the meaning, of like the boundaries of work. When you're employed, you have the boundaries of work by contract anyway, the weekends, the evenings. And I have to say, when you're an entrepreneur, it's more fluid based on the demand, because suddenly the world is your market, right? If you work with the world, so it doesn't matter the time zone, they don't have your boundaries. But also it's about the meaning of work. It happens to me as well. I work on the weekend, but I don't label it as work. So it's less heavier, like, oh, I'm doing something for someone else. It's a choice. So maybe an agency, but it's true that you can't translate your ways of working as an employee to an entrepreneur. And the meaning of work also is different. And as long as you're okay with the terms, that's what matters in the end.
Yes, and as long as you manage that with your health and it's all good, and with your family and all the duties that you have, then it's all good.
Fully agree with you. And it's good to separate it. There's no myth of entrepreneurship. It's hard as well, but hard for different reasons, and uncertainty. Exactly. You mentioned, I wanted to highlight on the part of uncertainty. It's been a decade, so I guess, you have maybe been more comfortable with uncertainty, or has any changed? You just have found different ways of approaching it.
Yes. So this is one of the points I really learned to relax. I think also when you start a company, it's all new. And even if you know it's in the business you have been before, you make so many things new and it's very difficult to accept sometimes just to wait for contracts, wait for the money because people don't realize, now they need to pay you now because otherwise you will not be able to pay your employees. It's not that they don't care, but they don't realize that maybe if you're in such a situation. All this, I really learned to be much more relaxed. I wouldn't say I don't worry anymore because it would be unhealthy not to worry sometimes. But I really learned to be more also confident and knowing that year after year, when you have success, when you see it's coming and it's building up, year after year, you learn to be a little bit more confident about what is going to happen and to be able to wait and to pivot. And maybe there's a bad news. Somebody, you thought your contract would be sent. It happens to everybody. And then just before signature, yes, if it's a big company, the boss changes his mind or the priorities of the company are changing. And then suddenly you don't get the contract that that was all agreed. At the beginning, it would really give me a bit of sleepless nights. By now, not really, because I am much more confident in what we are doing. And I know, okay, this one has not worked out. I have another idea. I'm going to pivot to do something else. So this is one point. It's really just with the time you learn how to cope with these situations. I'm a very, very optimistic person by nature. In private things also, I always think of the bright side of things and not of the negative side. So, and I must say, the thing I really enjoy also is not being alone, is having a co-founder, because with my co-founder, we have two very different personalities. He is the one really also very, very confident, and he's not going to worry much for a long time. I'm going to be the first one to, say, okay, now we need to change something. And it's very nice to be able to have somebody that is a bit different from you, and also to sometimes, or to all the times, actually split maybe the responsibility and the burden. So you can never be a 12 months, a year, 100% and fully motivated. There are always things happen, whether it's in the work or whether it's private, where you don't have this really great mood of you're going to conquer the world. And having somebody that is also responsible with you for the company, it helps a lot to not feel too bad about like this week, I'm not going to conquer the world. I'm just going to make sure everything is running because, you are low in energy. But, there is somebody else that is actually high in energy this week. And then the week after, it might change, or the month after, it might change. But the fact I really do appreciate that I have a co-founder on this side. So to split the responsibility and the burden, the uncertainties, and also to have somebody that you can bounce your ideas with. And I think this is the two things I would look for when I start a company with somebody, is somebody I enjoy discussing, arguing, and I enjoy the feedback he can give. We are very complementary in the way we see things. And that's really nice, because there's always a point where you don't see the end of the tunnel. You just say lost and you don't understand what it's not working. And having somebody giving you feedback in a very honest way, because we both want just as the company is growing, then it helps a lot.
Important mention indeed about a co-founder or partner in the journey of entrepreneurship, because it can take a toll emotionally, in the work responsibilities. And the flip coin is also the difficulty to find a reliable partner along the way. But I've also met a lot in my journey solo founders who are having the challenge as well to exactly be alone. But then the work is like they work with a coach to have that partnership as well. But yeah, I would say as well the same, that carrying all the burden, responsibility alone and the thinking, it's a lot. And sometimes you are becoming your own blocker without knowing about it, because there's so much to think about with a business. How did you meet with Thierry? Did you know him before when you started the company?
So, yeah, that's a funny story. When I quit Ubisoft and I started my own company, I didn't know him yet. And somebody recommended me to him for a conference. So he invited me at the Ambassade de France in Berlin to French person. He was looking at financing of video games. He didn't know much about it. He knew a lot about financing of films, series, other creative industries, and he was starting to be interested in this. And he asked me to participate as an expert to this conference. So I flew to Berlin. I made for him a panel discussion and a presentation about video games and the market and financing and everything. Very fast, we started to speak a lot. He was interested in what I was saying. I was interested in what he was saying about other industries. And we started to exchange a lot pretty intensively, actually. After a while, we realized that we really were having similar ideas about the need of the independent game industry, of the studios, that they were very good in innovation and in production, but they were so bad in business and they needed so much professionalization. And then we bounced ideas back and forth, just like that. And maybe we do a project together. And then suddenly everything speed up. We were in contact with Arte, the French TV, Franco-German TV, and they were very interested in this idea because Thierry and I, we are both French, both living in Germany for a very long time. He has been working a lot in the Franco-German. I was also involved a lot with the Ambassador of France in this relationship. And Arte was saying, oh, this is really a nice idea to have teams from France and from Germany working together. And more or less, we had a customer before we had a company. So both of us, we said, okay, what do we have to lose? Actually, nothing. Even if we don't know each other that well, let's give it a try. Building a company in Germany, it's more expensive than any other country, but it's still feasible. So that's how SpielFrabrique was born, actually. Pretty fast, we had the first customers that was interested in doing a project with us. We said, so let's go, we do it. And yes, it's how it started. And then we realized that we were really able to work well together, that our ideas were developing. And this is how SpielFrabrique was born and still kept on growing then.
So what I see as well, maybe a point also for people considering starting their business, you had the fact that you had a customer before you had a business, you had a good nose on the market needs, where it was going, because I could say the same statement today where, many studios start with a gap of business knowledge. That's not how, studio with a lot of creative passion, drive to make the game, think about, and the gap is still there. So you were early there, and that's good when you are early there, because then you capture the ones that are in the market coming to the realization even after 10 years.
Well, I speak a lot with my students at the university also. I speak a lot about networking and about what does it mean. And maybe it sounds strange, but I don't really love to network. I like to meet people. I like to make interesting people, but I'm not a person that comes into a room and has 10 friends already. But I find it the most interesting is actually networking in other industries, being curious about other things. Yes, I'm interested in the gaming industry and always there are so many people I still don't know and that are very interesting. But I really also like to go a bit outside, even if you're in a particular branch, is not to close yourself only in this field because the world is going so fast. I think it's really interesting to see what's going on in other fields. And even if it's not games, but just creative industries or maybe it's other industries, I think that's something that's, especially as an entrepreneur, and you need so many connections because business is being done by people. And always to be open to a half an hour discussion about something. And this is what helped me a lot also at the beginning to develop the business, actually. Is not only having my big network in gaming industry, yes, but also being very open to meet other people.
And fast forward to where you are today. So you started at 2 with your first client. How big are you now as a team? And I don't know if you can mention projects or size to just give us an idea of what, was the departure point and then where you are today.
Yes. So altogether, we're 7 now at SpielFrabrique. And we have several programs running. So one of the big one is EFA, the acceleration program for video game in Europe. So to give an idea what is EFA nowadays, we just made the call for projects. So we have each year around 100 applications from 15 different European countries. We just selected 20 studios. that are going to participate. And we have a database. So the program is running for 6 months. And we have a database of 100 experts and mentors. We organize several workshops offline and online for the teams and for the cohort every year. And something also, so we do also some co-production program where we try to have European studio meet and develop co-production together. We have this year again, I'm very proud and very happy that we managed to do this also and to develop this big program in Africa. So this is now confirmed that we will be able again this year to do it again, mentoring, coaching of African studio in French and English. This is something also we have been building the last 5 years, really. And it's nice to see that it's growing also on this side. And we have a lot of activities in cross industries. So we do some meetings of book publishers and video game publishers, cinema, games in cinema being shown in cinema. We just started a program about music and games. So we still see each other as in the middle of the creative industry, in the middle of the ecosystem also. So speaking with the private, the public actors. And we're also part of a very big research program about sustainability in games, where we work with, I think it's 5 or 6 different universities around Europe about a very different aspect about sustainability for video games. This program is really where we see our strength. And this is what we will be keep on developing the next years.
Exciting. Also exciting expansion on different regions. Because, games are a global industry, global also consumption, but also industry on the developer side. And if you could also, you mentioned like some of the programs and what you offer. What is the business model also of SpielFrabrique, if you can share a bit more?
Yes, of course. So for our European program, we are very much supported by the European Union, some public financing, and for training programs like the acceleration program, where the European Union wants to improve the gaming industry generally. And the rest of our financing we find through partners, private partners, companies that want to also contribute to the ecosystem and that want to make sure that the developers not only develop the good games, but also are able to put them on the market. It's a mix of public and private financing. And also long-term, we start to develop a bit of asking the studio to pay for the programs. It's not going to be very expensive, but we also realize at some point that everything that is for free has not a big value. We were happy to offer everything for free when we would find the financing. But the last year, we realized at some point that we need also to put a price tag to our programs because they are very high quality. So we will, from this year on, ask the studios to have a small participation in Europe. I mean, in Africa, they have no funding at all. So this is all for free for them. And also this is what we think our contribution should be. But in Europe, we will also slowly start to invoice a bit the studios, especially to make them realize the value that is behind.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point where I've also been looking into the initiative in the industry and any form of content help to grow knowledge or to help a business, because at the end of the day, for the studios, they will grow a business. The commitment is not the same when it's free and when it's paid. I see the same in coaching, and even myself, when I attend things for free and I pay, it's just a mindset. It completely changed the attitude to the program. So it's just human behavior. It's a bit hard to change. So being aware about that and feeling comfortable with it is also, like you explained, signaling the value and also the responsibility for, the studios joining to really make the most of the program.
Mm-hmm.
And since you've been following the indie studios and I would say the eternal question, how do we bring more business thinking into the creative? I mean, even when I was at Wuga in companies, I've always seen that imbalance of too heavy on the business. I would say these days, a lot of the gaming industry is very geared toward business. And then the creativity is having a hard time to put the dollar on it. And so there's a bit of an imbalance. And then when I look more of indie studios, they're very still full on creativity, but with the current market condition, struggling more with the business. So what were the learnings you've had? Where are the biggest needs for studios in terms of business, knowledge or support, and things that have got better over the 10 years?
So yeah, it's a very broad question. I would say on the independent side, I think that the biggest need is really to accept a bit of a business mind. I still meet creative people that don't think they should think about business. And honestly, I think that's also one of the good things about Europe. We still see games as art. And you don't have to do only business with games. I think games can be art, and then we should keep on supporting these developers that really want to do only art and don't want to make a business out of it. I think it's fine. The one that want to make a business, we see still a lot of need of this professionalization starting early enough. I speak with yesterday, I had a discussion with a studio, and he was saying by himself, I started too late to think about monetization and how I'm going to market my game. He made the experience, and I wish we could have reached out earlier to him, or he would have heard of us earlier, but we can't take care of everybody in Europe. And actually, it's also when I work with my students in the incubator, also at the university, or even in the management class, I think it's finding your purpose also, is knowing why you're doing that. A lot of creative people and very, very innovative people just do it. And at some point, if you say, I want to create my company, then this is the moment when you need to know, I want to make art. I want to build a business that is scalable. Why? I want to give people a job. I want to make a living out of it. I want to live for my art. There are so many reasons of building a game company. And this is where I still see that somehow they stumbled into a game company and they haven't thought about the long term. They think about the short term, how is the game going to be developed? They might think about the short term, but what is long term? What is your purpose? And this is something that is not new to the gaming industry. Even when I was working at Ubisoft, we always had these waves of project. We need a lot of people. Project, it's finished. We need half of the people. What do we next? We need a new project. Again, we take the same people. So these cycles are natural to the gaming industry. And I think this is one of the most difficult thing to early enough to understand where is your strategy and why are you doing this, especially in this market that is also moving that fast. I think the developers I see having success are the ones that are really curious about what's happening. Then they are the first one to develop for the Switch too, because they read the news, they have a contact, they manage to contact Nintendo and they have a good, for example, a good concept, and then they will be successful because they were the first one to recognize where is the next need. And this one is successful. The other one that just stay a bit in their home and do their game, it's much more difficult.
So good reminder here, especially if you're in an industry that is very global, and when the business is, it's not possible to dissociate it and be open and curious about adapting where the market goes. I see a challenge also of a shift where, the desire to make art. When it's art, then you don't have to think about the commercial. I mean, if you are truly an artist in the definition, you don't think about the commercial. Then you just throw it there and then you release, right? But then the reality, when you have a team, you have a responsibility to pay people, you want to keep doing this, then, you need to have a way to fund it and through the consumers, players. That reality hits hard, sometimes the dream, of a myth, again, the game developer. Who are the studios that you work with or are good to contact you for SpielFrabrique or EVA program?
So for EVA, we look for studios that are ready to accelerate. So it's really studios that have released at least one game, that have already a functioning company, where they're ready to grow, want to pivot, want to work on their strategy, on their go-to-market strategy, on their financing, on the long-term goals, whatever, but studios that are really already a bit mature and that want to take time with us together, with our expert together to work on the strategy and on acceleration. So EVA is like that. For the other programs, it really depends on which program. We also offer what we call the Gamescom Clinic. We prepare studios for the Gamescom. And we take very young studios for that have never been at the Gamescom for their first time. We helped refine their pitch, give them a big information about the Gamescom. What does it mean to be prepared, not to go like without any real KPI, about real goals, understanding exactly why are they attending this fair, for example. And for this, we work with younger studios, even if they haven't released a game yet. In Africa, it's studios that need to have at least a prototype, because this is where we think also we can really help them to connect with the international community and to work on their pitch, to work on their positioning, on their strategy about how to start the studio. So it really depends on the programs. Mm-hmm. We are always happy if you write at info at SpielFrabrique, we always answer. And maybe we have a program for you and you can apply, maybe not, but usually we always try to have a small discussion and to understand when you are and to see how we can support maybe this year, maybe the next years.
And among the listeners, we have quite many who are either already founders of independent studios, small studios who, exactly fit the description that you had or the phase. I would be happy to reach out. So that's good that you could elaborate a bit more on what you offer and which phase. And I have a last question or point. It's more on forward. As I know you have a lot of project cooking going to Africa. What are you excited about in the development of SpielFrabrique?
Wow. So I think one thing we are very proud is I came from the AAA industry. Thierry was coming from actually movies and TVs. And by now, I would say a lot of people in Europe know SpielFrabrique and know what we are doing. And we have established ourselves as one of the quality actors in the independent game development. So I think this is something we both are very proud of, that we managed this. For us also, it's time, after 9 years now, SpielFrabrique, also we regularly think about where do we want to go. So it's not going to be an exponential growth, because we both are this kind of entrepreneur that say we want to be at the center of the project. We want to be involved. We like to develop new things. So for us, on one side is our activities in Europe, make sure that they continue. Now we have a good pipeline, we have a good methodology, we have all the tools. So for us, it's really securing our activities in Europe are going well. I'm very excited about keeping on developing the African market, because it's a very interesting market, a lot of growth potential. It's going to take time. But I like the people there. I like the way they work. And I like that I'm really able to bring a lot of value to them. And when the market is not mature, then there's a lot of rooms for new ideas, new programs, new things to do. So for us now, it's a bit about, we look at South America also. We have a couple of projects there. We try to develop it there. So we see that you can always do more and more in Europe, but we want to secure our activities there. And for us, looking at new territories, it's the thing that we are interested in. This is one side. And the other side, what we always have been doing and we see is also growing, is the cross-industry. We really see, we started also probably a bit almost too early to connect cinemas and games, to connect books, publisher and games. And now we really see that everybody is going this direction of cross-industry, because IP is IP. It doesn't really matter which kind of platform it's going to be. So these are the path we chose to focus on for the next, I would say 2 years. And there we see.
All of this sounds really exciting. And it's, for me, like traveling culture is, so I've seen also a lot of interest with Africa and overall what we call global South and South America. Development is everywhere, right? But the needs, exactly the value, the impact of the value of what you have to offer with beyond a different order and magnitude in different regions. So that's very exciting. Exactly, not mature places to bring value very quickly. And with also the wisdom or groundedness to not scale like a mass, unicorn and then be developing several places at once. I mean, you've been part of an organization and you know how it goes. So having, I'd say the wisdom to also scale and grow, as you can absorb and keep enjoying what you do, right? So I listen to you and how you talk about it, and there's still the spark, in the eyes and the excitement, which is the whole point also of having your company. enjoying the journey. So all of this sounds really exciting. And you seem very excited also about it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the point about, but we need to say also we are the generation where, it's a good point also. I don't have to prove myself to anybody anymore.
Yes.
And Thierry is exactly like me. So we just want to do something that we really enjoy, that we think also we bring the value to, that we want to build for the long term. And we like to have things that we can really innovate and create new things. And as I said, both of us, we don't need to prove ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing about it.
And good reminder again of wisdom with the maturity in life as you build your company, and then you keep your focus on the right things, right? And not trying to prove something.
To other people, exactly. But I think it comes with the time, and also it comes with the kind of personality you have. That's why coming back to creating your own company, it's really a question of what kind of personality are you. If you need the big titles, the big names to shine, then it's going to be difficult at the beginning. You might make it, of course, because you might build a unicorn and then you're absolutely the hero, but it might be also very, very painful. This is something else. You need to know yourself pretty well, I would say, if you want to create your own company.
Well, Odile, thanks a lot for sharing your whole journey and story and, what motivated you to start the company. I didn't know also about, the behind the scenes story behind SpielFrabrique with that lens, but I appreciate it even more because I did enjoy every bit of interaction and collaboration with you and also with Matthias during, the program. So I understand now that soul that is so much part of what you've created, that it's also coming from you and Thierry, and with care and thoughtfulness you had in building the business. So thanks so much for sharing today.
Thank you for your question. It was a really nice discussion.
Thank you, Odile. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this latest episode of Rise and Play podcast. We keep growing our community of conscious leaders across the industry and beyond. If you want to join this movement, please share the podcast with other conscious leaders, because we have so much more we can learn from each other. And if you want to accelerate your growth, I offer creative leadership coaching and workshop, plus other free resources that you can find on riseandplay.io. I can't wait to connect with you. Have a great week, and remember to take care of yourself. Until the next time,